Welcome to AtVenture DealFlow, the podcast where we speak to fundraising founders and the investors who back them. Today I'm speaking with Julia Bialetska, co-founder of S.Lab. S.Lab is replacing packaging with a material grown from plant waste and from mushroom roots. Welcome, Julia. Really nice to have you here today. And the floor is yours. Can you please explain what S.Lab is doing exactly and why you started S.Lab?
Hi, Laurie. Well, happy to be here. And you sort of already did a hook of what we are doing with mushroom roots. I know it's always fascinating to hear that we are making and growing something out of mushrooms that is then used not in the food, but actually in the packaging industry. So we are creating a new material that is a full replacement of polystyrene, this foamed plastic that has annoying squeaking parts.
Yeah.
So we are replacing that with plant-based components. So one is plant waste. We use stems of the plants, and then we mix them with mycelium, that is network of mushroom roots. And as you said, we are growing this packaging. So we mix those two components together, and mycelium starts to create nets like a spider and binds every particle together. So at the end, we get a fully biodegradable, home compostable replacement of this fossil-based polystyrene that has the same properties as polystyrene. So S.Lab packaging is strong, durable, waterproof, thermal insulating, but then can be thrown into the soil where it fully biodegrades in just 30 days. And we also developed our own technology of the manufacturing of the packaging at the industrial scale. So as you can imagine, when you want to replace the material that is used in such big amounts, you really need to make it at the industrial scale. So we focused on the technology, and now we have an automated production line, pilot production line that integrates robotics, automation, bioprocessing, and this already allows us to be able to produce at the industrial scale or start producing in the industrial scale. And then in the future, we actually want to become providers of the technology as well as the, as well as selling the packaging itself. And you asked why we started this or how this started. I think as often in such cases when it is something about sustainability, about climate, about trying to avoid those climate changes, the consequences of which we are all seeing already, it was about exactly trying to make the future better for us, for our kids, to make planet better and try to preserve it, actually. So we are two co-founders, my husband and I, and we were traveling to the beautiful island in Indonesia, Bali Island. I think many know that. And of course, exactly, the pictures of that are just amazing. And we were doing surfing sessions there for a couple of months. We were living there. And then one day we went to the seashore again to do the surfing. But instead of a beautiful island or beautiful nature, we saw huge piles of plastic. And these were like just mountains of plastic, those plastic islands
Terrible.
that come from exactly, that come from the ocean. And well, we all know that it is terrible, that it just awful.
But we all talk about it. And
exactly. Yeah. And then when we saw it with our own eyes, we just couldn't think of anything else. It sort of changed our perspective. And I mean, probably the mindset is that we are not sort of people who will be like just sitting there and dwelling on, well, how bad it is, our world is going to go to trash or something like that. We just are trying to see if there is anything we can do, and basically
solution. Yeah,
exactly. Is there any solution that we can do? I have a master degree in biotechnology, but the actual hands-on experience in the team management, project management, and my husband Eugene has experience in the hardware engineering. So basically we combined our skills in that, and we're just like, first it all started with just conversations and some experiments in our own kitchen. But then when we found this mix of plant waste and mycelium, we started to show those samples to some of the first potential customers. Well, it was not customers even at that point, just some people who knew, who could be
companies.
possible. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And they all really liked our idea and the material itself. And it was after COVID time, so it was so close to all of us the amounts of plastics in the packaging that we use, that we found this, sort of product market fit or idea market fit, I would say. And we started to sort of develop this, and then all of the other conclusions came to us that we need to make it industrial scale. We need to make it. We need to promote the material. We need to promote the changes in the behavior, in the company's behavior. We need to be aligned with sustainability policies. So all of the things that are happening right now.
Yeah. Wow, really cool story. So indeed, you saw this problem that everyone is seeing, and you thought, okay, but we want to find a solution, at least to make the problem a bit smaller.
At least try to find a solution.
Exactly.
We were not sure if we can do something, but let's try.
No, but let's try. So very interesting. So I can imagine you did a lot of testing to find out finally something that might work, and that's actually what you're currently having. That's your current technology. How can you explain a little bit on how the whole process works from getting your raw materials in and making actually your end product?
Yeah, so there are two types of the raw material. One is plant waste, and we use straws of the plants, and currently we use straws of hemp and linen, as it's available to us where we produce locally. So we try to source our raw material as close to our production as possible. So
but you could use different plant stems basically. So this is just what you have locally available.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly. It could be any sort of plant waste or plant that has cellulose, and obviously most of the plants has cellulose because that's the main ingredient or component. So we source this as close locally as possible. So we are working with some farmers, with companies who take the material from the farmers and then spread it into or split it into several parts. The process,
because you use a part that nobody is using.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
We use the straw. So when you imagine a plant, let's say linen or hemp, there are seeds that in hemp they are used for the oil made out of seeds. Then leaves, they have to throw them away. But then the fiber that is inside is used for the fabrics, for some other ropes and other types of the products. But the straw normally remains on the field after the harvest, or just is the waste for the companies.
Clear.
So we source this waste that otherwise would stay at the
unused,
field.
basically.
Exactly. Exactly. So turning this waste into the material.
Great. Yeah.
And then the other ingredient is mycelium, and we don't source it anywhere. So we have the mother culture that was grown for us in Ukraine when we just started, when we had this crazy idea, let's use mushrooms to bind the plant waste together. So mycelium acts like a binder, like a glue, and glues all of the particles of the plant waste together, of the straws, and we just have the recultivation process inside of our own manufacturing process or technology. So we don't have to source it or to
exactly. So you're not dependent on anyone else
Exactly.
for that one.
Exactly.
And for the plant stems, you get it also. Like, I mean, there's never going to be scarcity on, let's say, your supply for that one.
Yeah, exactly, because we can use any type of the plant, so it doesn't really matter. We tested with different types of plants from different areas from the whole globe. So we even tested with some Japanese raw material, like the tea trees leftovers, obviously Spain, France, Portugal, Ukraine. So tried to read different types of the plants.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So that's, let's say, your raw material. Then you have your tech, and you come with your end product, which is then a sort of the plant-based polystyrene, right? Or how do you call that? Do you have a name for that? You call it just plant-based polystyrene, or do you have a different name?
We should come up with an interesting name, because we don't have the name.
It should
maybe we can
because you don't want to have anything to do with polystyrene, actually, right? So
exactly,
you want to be someone else, something else. Yeah.
However, you want the customers to immediately understand what it is. So
that's true. And for me to understand exactly what it is, because you explained it a bit there, so it's the one that makes the squeezy sound, that type of plastic. How big is this problem of all the plastic problems? So how much is used? In which industries do you see this more mainly? Can you share a bit about the polystyrene?
Yeah. So there are 15 billion kilograms of polystyrene produced every year. So there's huge amounts, and every kilogram of polystyrene leads to 7 kilograms of CO2 emissions, 12 liters of water usage, and then obviously it all ends up on the landfills because it's non-recyclable. So
Oh my
90%
God.
of
Yeah.
that goes to the landfills and obviously pollutes soils, oceans, and then even gets into the animals' bodies, into our bodies,
Yeah.
which is,
Yeah.
a big problem from environmental perspective, but it's also a problem from the economical standpoint. Especially in the European Union, there are regulations, there are additional policies that require companies to transition from using
Yeah.
polystyrene and any other fossil-based, not all of the fossil-based materials, but basically the materials that are not made out of recycled raw materials. So this means that many companies have to comply with those regulations. If they don't, there are some consequences for them in terms of the reporting, taxes, additional work, and then it all translates into the money. And then I think the consciousness of the customers also grows a lot. So obviously there are many researches that show that customers would choose the same product. If there are two products that are the same,
Of
but
course.
one is in the eco-friendly packaging, we would obviously make a
Yeah.
choice for the
Everyone
sustainable
would. This is an
packaging.
obvious choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
But would you
So
pay for
then,
it as well? That's the second question, I think.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it does mean that some of the
Yeah.
companies might lose their customers. So this is like a big problem from both standpoints, from ecological and economical.
Okay. And in which industries are we talking about mainly?
So I would say that, like for us as the customers, the most understandable use case is electronics. So, when you buy a TV set or some home appliance or fridge or anything, it is always wrapped into the cardboard box. But
And
when
this
you open
white
it,
stuff.
this
Yeah.
white,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a lot of that. There is a lot of that. But what we don't see that it is actually used across all industries. It's beauty, self-care, devices, home decor, furniture. A lot of that is in food and pharmaceutics because polystyrene has strong thermal insulation properties and waterproof properties. So then it is used in those products that also need protection, from heating while shipped. So these are like the main industries, but again, we don't see that as much probably as end users because a lot of that is in the supply chain. So in the logistics when something is shipped from the production facility to the shop, and then it is packed into the other packaging in the shop. So that's like a lot of that. And we have several customers now who are really keen to transition from using this polystyrene that they currently use to our packaging. And they are driven by, everything, regulations, the internal sustainability policies. But interesting fact that they are replacing not only the end not only the products that will face the end user, but also those that are in their supply chain. So they
Internally.
also want
Ah.
exactly. So they also want to
Yeah. So they
make
really
their
are
yeah
driven to
yeah
it.
exactly
It's not just a marketing
no
exercise, but it's really
yeah
also something they feel committed to. That's
yeah
great to hear.
yeah.
In terms of market size, can you share a bit on how big this market is? Numbers. We like to know the
Uh, the,
numbers
exactly
because
there
I
it's
can
like
imagine it's huge. If you say
yeah yeah
15 billion kilograms, how is a cheap material? I imagine.
yeah. Like the red flag for the investor to say that the market is huge. But in this case, it is actually, in fact, huge.
It is huge. It is
Yeah.
huge. We talk
So
billions.
just like the billions, exactly.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
the whole packaging industry itself is 1 trillion euros per year and keeps growing 5-7% every
Yeah.
year. And I think it will keep growing as, the consumer demand is also growing.
Yeah.
We produce
Yeah.
more and more. The polystyrene or protective packaging itself is worth 300 billion euros. So it's like
Yeah.
30% of the whole packaging market and also keeps
30%. All
growing.
right. So it's
Yeah.
huge. Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's not like a
exactly.
small niche part of the packaging problem. It's
Yeah.
like a big
Yeah, it's
part of
not.
it. Okay.
Yeah.
No,
It's
it's
I
great. So
think
you picked a good one then, for your
yeah,
solution. Yeah. Yeah.
sure. I
Yeah.
mean,
Makes sense.
we of course are very transparent that we cannot replace plastic bags at this point or plastic
No.
bottles. That's not what
No.
we are doing. But even
No.
with that, the segment of the market is just really big, like 300
Yeah.
billion euros. So just
Yeah. Yeah.
30% of the whole packaging market.
Yeah, which is huge. And in terms of like geography, because is it mainly,
Mm-hmm.
let's say this 30%, is that in Europe or like is it mainly in China or how do I see that? If you
Mm-hmm.
say it's used, especially, let's say, in TVs and stuff. So,
Oh, yeah, that's an
um,
interesting question. How do
yeah,
you position that? Yeah, of course,
yeah,
300 billion euros is the worldwide
yeah,
protective packaging market. But I think you're touching a bit interesting question is that like there is like a report on that European market is I think is worth 80 billion euros of the protective packaging. But when you say that TVs and stuff are produced in China, that's true. But then those companies that are considered to be European, how do you know that whether they produce in China or how do you
yeah.
actually
And how do
differentiate
they
them?
transport these things then?
Yeah.
And also, okay, anyway, it's a global problem. So I think there's a lot of work to be done. So it's great that you're doing that. So I understand all the benefits, let's say, of course, for a company to say, okay, I wanna change. So this consumer anyway wants to change. But price wise, can you
Mm,
share how different your price point is versus the polystyrene packaging, basically?
sure,
What are the differences there for a
sure.
company?
But what about money, right? That's one of the
Yeah,
top questions
exactly.
that we
Yeah.
get from the customers, and absolutely, I get that. So at this point, I think we are able to reach price parity with polystyrene and other protective packaging
Okay.
types of the material. We are definitely cheaper than other ecological alternatives. And the biggest cost saving factor is that we don't use any molds, injection tools that are normally very expensive when you talk about custom designed packaging. And that's what normally you use in the polystyrene. You always custom designed your packaging to repeat the form of your product. So, for example, I have this packaging here, and you can see that it repeats the form of the cream.
Yeah.
So, like this is the
Yeah.
custom form. So it has to be developed for each product. And the cost of the tooling, molding tool for polystyrene or molded pulp industries, it starts from 10,000 of euros, and then it just can go to infinity. It could be hundreds of thousands of euros. And then when you calculate the whole sort of cost of the project, of this injection tool, of the every packaging piece, it is actually more expensive, or it's more expensive than we are used to think. And in our case, we don't use any molds at all. And for our customers, it's just 500 euros to create this custom shape. And this means that there is, already a huge saving cost at the
Huge
at the
then.
beginning.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And why
Then,
why 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 is it that you don't use this mold? I
mhm,
mean,
yep.
how come that you don't have to do that
Well,
then?
I think nature helped us in this case, but also this is our own patent, so we have developed the technology that enables us to produce the packaging, to form packaging without any form. So this was basically the goal, because every other producer from mycelium, they have to create plastic forms in order to place the material in this plastic form, and then material takes
Still
the
use
form.
plastic in their
Exactly.
process, basically. Yeah.
Exactly. And even though they can reuse those plastic forms many, many times, so it's not as bad as just single use. But in overall, at S.Lab, we were so tired of trying to create those like plastic molds, and it just didn't make sense for us because it was expensive. We saw a lot of barriers from the customer perspective, as they were like not very happy about the fact that they need to pay for the plastic molds and everything. So we were really trying hard to come up with a solution how we can overcome this, or how we can form our packaging without the need of the forms. And our engineering team just made a breakthrough where they created this a unique shaping process that uses robotics and like the set of moves and algorithm, and very, I would say, smart robot that is shaping the material into the final form. And so we don't use any plastic molds, any injection molds. We have just one shaping detail that is reused throughout millions of cycles.
Well done. Congratulations on that.
Thank
So,
you. Yes.
really well done. So there is actually a benefit for a
Hmm.
company apart from all, of course, the softer benefits that they're ticking. They also see a financial benefit basically by
Yep.
using,
Yep.
and especially when they have many molded
Hmm.
products. Yeah. Okay. About your patent then, because you say you have a patent, so for your
Hmm.
technology you have more than one, right? Can you share a bit about
Yep.
your
Hmm.
IP roadmap?
Yep. So at the moment, we already have 3 patents. Well, as you know, patenting is a very long process. So we did file
I
3
know.
patents.
Yeah.
1 was already granted, and 2 are under review on different stages. So it just takes time. So three patents covering different parts of the technology. So one is sterilization process. So we also developed our own sterilization own continuous sterilization process that takes just 15 minutes instead of 48 hours as it's in the conventional sterilization. So it saves the time and the cost at the end for the customers. Then the second one is the continuous cultivation of mycelium. I would mentioned already that we have our own process that helps us recultivate mycelium all the time, so we have supply of it and we don't need to buy it from somewhere. And then the third patent is actually for this shaping process that I mentioned, the mold-free process of the packaging forming. So these are the 3 current patents. We want to file also the 4th one that would protect the whole production line, the whole technology that would integrate those 3 parts that I mentioned. And we also are using trade secrets as well, so we are not disclosing some of the information as we don't want to become it public, because to my surprise, I learned this a couple of years ago that when you actually file a patent, it becomes available to public
Yeah.
eventually. And I thought it was
Everyone
an
sees it.
opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought, well, you think about patent, it just
Yeah.
seems that you are going to protect your
No.
information with that, but it's different. So
No.
we're
No,
keeping
so
some
it's
trade
also a
secrets.
conscious decision to not do
Yeah.
it, of course. So yeah, so you have to think of it wisely. It's a strategy,
Exactly.
I guess. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Going back about the benefits quickly. So you say, okay, so you also offer the same benefits as the current solution. And in terms of time, so how fast
Mm.
you can deliver, is it also similar as the status quo?
Yeah, I wish it would be just seconds, as it's in polystyrene industry. So every packaging unit take 5 days to grow. Well, it doesn't mean that we grow obviously one packaging in 5 days. We grow them in chunks, and we have the continuous process. We were always placing new packaging to grow and then moving them through the process. And so we have like this continuous production. But yeah, it is 5 days. So basically, our customers need to wait a week
For 5
until they
days.
can get. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
interesting that I see different reaction. Initially, when we started, when I was saying, well, 5 days, I thought that, well, I saw that people were like, wow, 5 days, that's a lot. But I think now, like, it's people are realizing more that it is natural packaging, that at the end it's
Yeah.
much better than
You really
everything
grow
else.
it. So
Yeah,
it's like in
exactly.
a way
Exactly.
something that you grow in 5 days is actually quite fast.
Yeah, and
Right?
now everyone just like, yeah, for sure. And
Yeah.
that's what everyone now is saying. Well, that's so fast for the natural material. It has the same properties, but then, it can be discarded and will biodegrade. It's
Yeah.
just very fast.
And
So
it's
it's like
also
great.
shaped like that in 5 days, or
Yeah.
if
So
you have a shape. Okay.
we get the final shape at the end. So like we
In
shape this
5 days as
material.
well.
Yeah. You get
Okay. Yeah.
this exact custom shape.
Yeah, yeah.
So the packaging is
Okay.
ready to be used.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean that's I mean it's not weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
And about your ICP, so who is your ideal customer, in which market sector,
Mm-hmm.
can size
Yeah.
of the company? Yeah.
Well, if you look into the area, we obviously target European Union because the regulations help us, and we don't rely on regulations only because there are different companies in different countries, not only in the EU region, who are willing to transition from what they currently use, not only because of the regulations, but because of the internal policies, because of they are afraid to lose the customers, and they just know that they have to be ahead. If they want to be ahead, they need to be using new materials. But yeah, like if you look into who we target specifically, it is European Union. Obviously, the biggest economies in European Union, Germany, France, and also since we're in Spain as well. Also, Swedish market, Danish market, that region and that area, of course, because I think there's also like tendency to use more sustainable materials. And then in terms of what they are doing, so I know it's a bit broad ICP, and we are trying to prioritize or like focus ourselves on something more narrow, but overall, we say that we can protect any fragile item, so meaning that anything made out of glass, so like perfumes, home decor, and then some other items that also need protection, like furniture, devices, electronics, other beauty items other than perfumes. So these are like the main, I would say, industries or companies we target. In terms of the size, that's actually an interesting question. And again, we are trying to make it more narrow, but we've been working with two types of the customers in terms of the size. So we've been working with corporations, and obvious reasons. It is very strategic. They are very big. So if you score the corporation to use your product, use your solution, you are sort of set, and because then other companies would just follow the big corporations. So we've been working with some huge corporations in cosmetics, electronics industries already with pilots like with L'Oreal, Nespresso, and JTI.
So these are paid pilots, or is
Yes,
this
exactly.
unpaid? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And we are in different stages with them, but it's all already post-pilot process, But
Yeah. But
what we
these are
see
all
that
very
it
big companies, basically, that you are.
exactly, yeah, big, huge companies, and obviously it takes a lot of time to get to the sales.
Yeah.
So that's also why I say that we have two types of the customers in the size. The other are actually small, medium businesses, maybe even more small. We have a couple of medium-sized companies because they are so much faster to make a decision, and they already are more open, and they have this need to replace the material that they currently use, or they are launching a new brand, so they want a new product and they want to have a new packaging from the beginning, and they understand that packaging helps them sell as well. So like many things there. So
Yeah, the lead
we've
times
been
are much
working.
shorter, of
Oh
course,
yeah, of
in these
course,
smaller. So
of
you need
course.
to have both and
Yeah.
yeah, prioritize some of these things. Yeah. And in terms of your revenue stream, then because you explained it quickly, you said, okay, at the moment we have our own technology, but at the end we also want to sell our
Mhm.
technology. Can you share a bit on now and future ambition?
So yeah, we envision having two streams of revenue and two business models. And I know it already sounds a bit or too complicated, but hear me out. So currently we are selling or having this one business model. We are doing direct sales of the packaging. So obviously we have orders for the custom made packaging that we produce for our customers. We produce it, sell it, but then it's actually very expensive to do the logistics. It's on the customer side, obviously, but what we've seen that it is 30% on top of the price of the packaging to actually deliver it to the customer. And then it's also additional CO2 emissions, the scope that falls under the customer. So, it's also like causing additional issues for the logistics overall. And I mean, I don't even want to get into the amount of times where we had to deal with the logistic companies that lost parcels and, didn't ship it correctly, damaged. Like, it's just a lot of pain.
A lot of headaches. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then we also understand that in order to become a global company and actually bring our solution around the globe to different locations, we need to come up with a solution how we can produce our packaging in the decentralized manner. So we are optimizing our production line to fit into the 40-foot container that will serve as the mini factory. And then this mini factory will be deployed at the customer's premises. So that's where packaging is going to be produced. So they always have supply to the packaging at their own premises. They save logistics. They don't cause additional CO2 emissions. And at the end, since we charge only a subscription fee for using this mini factory, it is cheaper for them to actually produce at their own facility and rather than buying from us. So there are many benefits in that. And this is like an automated, could be autonomous production unit that can be installed anywhere. So that's that's where we are heading to. So like that's our second business model, that we want to become a provider of the technology and to license our technology in those mini factories.
But are there, because like you said before, you are based in Spain also because of weather conditions, maybe to grow
Mm.
your product. So are there not like sort of side criteria that you need to meet in order to be able
Mm.
to have this mini factory on your premises, basically? Or is it
Yeah,
really true that it can be anywhere, even in, let's say, the Nordics, where it's colder, or somewhere else where it's more humid? Or are there not certain criteria you need to meet for your
it can be
mini
actually
factory to work?
anywhere, because that's why we are using this 40-foot container concept that is like a closed environment where
Okay.
we set all of the conditions inside
Yeah.
of this container. So basically, the container, the system knows that it needs to maintain certain temperature, certain humidity, certain CO2 amount. So, and it just maintains it there in this closed unit.
And what does it cost for a company in terms of time or expertise? They don't need to know anything. Basically, they just have it. You give all the, I mean, you make sure all the conditions are great and everything is met, and they buy you sort of license fee
Yep.
on a monthly
Mhm.
basis or something.
Yeah, so this is like just plug in and use the production unit. So it doesn't require any expertise, I would say, on the engineering or anything. You just like insert it into the source of the power, and then
Big
it
is
just
how big is it? Or I mean,
it's
if I hear mini
12.
factory, I think like, oh, can I put it in my garden or how the
Well, yeah, maybe 12 meters. So we have
No,
some.
no, okay. Oh, really? It's quite mini, actually.
Yeah, we have some farmers that have their own fields and they want to install this mini factory at their farm, so they will feed it their plant waste that they have. But at the end, they will get the packaging that is ready to be used for their products, for their candles, for their perfumes. So it is, yeah, in fact, mini, I would say, not a huge one. But obviously, when there is a need for the customer to have much bigger capacity, we would either install two mini units or, expand it for them and make it bigger for their needs.
So let's say in terms of your big ambition, how many mini factories will there be around the world, and how much of this problem are you solving? So how much of the
Yeah.
the billion of kilograms are you actually producing? Yeah,
Yeah, ideally all of them, but of course we are
all of it.
realistic.
Yeah.
That's not just about us. And so we're looking into 1,000 mini factories around the world in the next 7-10 years. In the next 5 years, we want to have 300 units, which will already cover substantial amount. So with 300 units, it will be 6 million packaging units produced in 1 month. So then you can also calculate 60 million in a year. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I mean, it's
good.
not billion yet, but already moving to
You're
that.
growing there. You're gonna get there.
Exactly.
You're gonna get there.
Exactly.
Final question I have is on your 10x question, which I always ask is, and I think you mentioned a lot of numbers in the different areas, a lot of impact that you're making. But can you say in one sentence, how are you 10 times better, faster, cheaper, more impactful than the current solution?
I think the one sentence is that we produce strong, durable, waterproof, thermal insulating material for the packaging that doesn't sacrifice any of the properties. However, it is biodegradable. It can be thrown into the soil where it doesn't harm nature, and it is at the same price point. So basically, we do sustainable packaging at the speed, scale, and price that market needs.
Final question about your funding round. So you are
Uh,
currently closing, actually, almost
yeah.
your round. Can you share a bit on this round, how much you're raising and what you will use the funding for?
Mhm. So we are raising 2.5 million euros. It is our seed round. We already closed pre-seed round in 2023. So yeah, we are very close to the completion of the round as we have major investors already committed. And as always, we are going to use it for scaling, for growth. We are going to deploy throughout the next 2 years 50 first mini factories. At the same time, we are going to scale our own production facility of the packaging, so it would also grow in the direct packaging sales business model. So basically, the idea is to develop both of those business models
Oh,
and to get to substantial IRR. I think at the end of 2028, we are looking into 5,
5
7
million, I
million.
hear. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Clear milestones that you want to reach, and ambitious, but clear. So I hope you will manage there. Thank you very much, Julia, for sharing your story with me. It's really great technology that you have been building, and you're solving a very big problem. So well done. And I love your attitude that you saw a big problem and you thought, okay, let's change it. And you looked for a solution and you found one that's actually working, and is actually ticking all the boxes. So well done. My name is Laurie Lancee. This was AtVenture DealFlow, and see you at the next great deal.